What is everybody? Kyle Murray from FTN Daily back again with the PrizePicks Prop Show. It is Thursday, January 19th, and we have some NBA picks here for you today. I got 3 of them. Keep in mind, one of them does start at 3 o'clock with the Chicago and Detroit game being over there in Paris. I believe this is the first time we had a regular season game in Paris, so that's pretty cool. Pretty exciting there. I do have a pick from that game, so if you are looking to get these picks in over there, make sure you're doing that prior to that game starting. It is a pick that I'm pretty high on, and obviously we're going to have more picks later on in the day, so you don't quite get to it. Check back in on our pick tracker, which is free every single day at FTN Daily. You can find it for NBA as well as a handful of other sports that we have picks in there every single day from several different people. But before we get into my picks, if you're a new user at PrizePicks, head over there, use code FTN and get yourself a 100% match up to $100. But without further ado, let's get into my picks, and let's talk about that Chicago and Detroit game first here with Nikola Vucevic over 18.5 points. When we're talking about a guy who's gone over this number, he just did it in a big way last game. 43 points against the Warriors last time out. He's gone over this number now in 7 of his last 10, averaging 23 points over his last 5 games. Obviously, a big helping hand with that 43 points, but he scored 19 or more points, like I mentioned, in 7 games, but also 20 or more points in 5 of those games as well. The matchup against Detroit, it's really as good as it gets for, a pure scoring matchup for a big man. This Detroit team's 29th in points allowed, they're 29th in field goal percentage allowed, 28th in free throws allowed, and 28th against opposing big men defensively. So it's just a really good matchup for Nikola Vucevic. Really, any of these Bulls guys, if you're interested in Levine over, couldn't fault you there. He's kind of fitting the same sort of bill as Nikola Vucevic. It's just a lower line, but I guess we can make the case for Zach LaVine right now while we're talking about it. Over his last 5 games, he's averaging over 30.5 points. He scored 43 points against this Detroit team just a couple weeks ago on the day before New Year's Eve, and he scored 40 points twice in the last 10 games, going over this number, over 25.5 in 7 of his last 10 as well, over 25 in 8 of his last 10. So LaVine was terrible to start the year, and he sort of started to pick it up here, which is good to see, averaging nearly 30 points over his last 10 games. So there you go. I just threw an extra pick in there. Did not even have that planned, but Zach LaVine over 25.5 picks is also one that I like. Maybe don't go crazy, and maybe you want to stagger Vucevic and Zach LaVine in props or in parlays. But if you wanted to play them both, you can definitely do so. I like both of those guys there. But back on our regularly scheduled programming here, pick number 2, Kyrie Irving over 5.5 assists here. A matchup against Phoenix. It's sort of a tricky one to really decipher, just because of the fact that when you think of Phoenix, you think of a pretty good defense, but they haven't been as good defensively this year. And then obviously they're missing a lot of their team right now. No Cam Johnson, no Cam Payne, no Chris Paul, no Devin Booker. So some of those guys are important in terms of their defensive acumen, but just in general, this team is a lot different right now. They're in the middle of the pack in terms of defense against opposing guards. So in terms of the matchup, it's not really one I'm considering very difficult or very strong. It's kind of just a middle of the pack matchup here against the Suns. But the big thing for Kyrie Irving is with Kevin Durant off the floor, his usage rate goes up to nearly 35%. That's a massive uptick there. So liking what we're seeing with no Kevin Durant on the floor. Kyrie didn't play last game against the Spurs, so he's going to have fresh legs, all that good stuff there. And he's gone over this number in 4 of his last 5, averaging 6.2 assists in his last 5 games there. So taking the over on Kyrie Irving, over 5.5 assists there against the Suns. And finally, let's go to another superstar point guard here, talking Steph Curry, however you want to frame the name there, over 27.5 points. A little bit of a layoff for Steph between December 14th and when he returned to the lineup on the 10th of January with that shoulder injury. He returned the first few games and didn't really play, obviously to the maximum capacity of minutes. Last game against Washington, played 37.5 minutes, dropped 41 points. That's the kind of upside you get from Steph Curry here. And in a matchup against Boston, which I'm expecting to see more of a playoff type atmosphere, maybe we see some increased minutes once again. I like Steph Curry to play a ton of minutes here and potentially score a ton of points. He did play this Boston team back on the 10th of December, just a few games before, that shoulder injury. Scored 32 points against them. That was his only time playing them so far this year. But when you think of the overall matchup here for Boston, obviously you think of a tough defense, but really they kind of fit the style that Steph Curry has. They don't really give up a lot of free throws, which is fine, but the 3-point percentage is middle of the pack. So a lot of their defensive stats are top 5, top 10, but in terms of how they've been against point guards and then how they've been against 3-point shooters, it really has been about middle of the pack. So not necessarily a great matchup, but this line at 27.5 is obviously pretty low considering Steph Curry did score 32 against them just a couple weeks ago, and then over 29 points per game on the year. So that difficult matchup is kind of baked in to this line here at 27.5. But considering what Steph Curry does well, which is make threes and shoot a lot of threes, the matchup actually isn't very difficult. It's actually middle of the pack there, closer to average. So final pick of the day, Steph Curry over 27.5 points. So to recap, we have Nikola Vucevic over 18.5 points. I also kind of threw a little bit of a teaser out there that I'll exactly mean over 25.5 as well. Kyrie Irving over 5.5 assists, and finally Steph Curry over 27.5 points. So those are my 3 picks. Let me know in the comments below who are your favorite picks. Who are you guys going to be putting your hard-earned money on PrizePicks today? Again, if you are a new user, head over there, code FTN, get yourself a 100% match up to $100. And yeah, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know when the next PrizePicks or whatever other content you're interested in at FTN Network, so you know when that video is coming. I do have a PGA video up currently, so if you're seeing this early in the morning, you can still head over there and get some PGA plays in on the PrizePicks streets as well. Got 3 picks that I really like for that category. So that's gonna do it for me. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time, and as always, good luck everybody.